Chisel.
Here.
Bell Richards absent. Carlson.
Here.
Luce.
Aye.
Flores absent. Rustad.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Okay, do we have a motion for approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion for approval of the agenda.
Okay, motion by Carlson, supported by Lewis. Roll call.
Carlson.
Aye.
Luce.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Rustad.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Agenda has been approved. Lorraine, you have some presentation or something you were presented with at a recent recognition for RSVP. Could you
Sure, I'd be glad to.
do that?
In front of you, you have what was given out to the volunteers for RSVP. It's been 15 years since we have done the Retired Senior Volunteer Program, and this is what was presented to Mayor Arndt. It was from October 1st, 2001 to September 30th, 2016. That totaled to be about 608 volunteers, 255,711 hours, and if we actually attach the amount of money that, when we're figuring the grant to each of those hours, it ends up to be $5,686,103.50 that people have donated for services for Alameda, Howard, and Winnebago County. So I'll put this up someplace. I'll put it up here. But we were really grateful that the mayor and Chad was able to attend also.
Thank you. And before you get away, there was also a special recognition that Lorraine got last week as Librarian of the Year from the Iowa Library Association. So I think she certainly needs some recognition for that.
Thank you very much. That was a real honor and a surprise, so, but thank you.
Well deserved. Thank you.
Do you have to memorize the card catalog or anything like that? I asked her what was the qualifications, and she said you actually go really loud.
Okay, a lot of good hints there. Okay, we're down to public comment, and Robert Irons, do you have something you want to discuss with the council, or at least bring to their attention?
Yes, I do. Is this fine to speak with you? My name is Bob Irons. I live at
Pull the mic over.
1502 Locust Road. I've been in construction most of my life. I've worked for Holland Brothers Construction, surveying and running heavy equipment. Worked for Riley Construction for 5 years doing the same thing. And in Des Moines, I built intakes for 9 months, one season in Des Moines. I worked for Stan Finholt for about 10 years. And just recently, I've worked for Ames Construction in La Crosse, Wisconsin, building a bridge for 3.5 years. I'm a little frustrated with what's going on with my property in Walk-On. I have some pictures if you would want to.
We said walk on.
Excuse me, Decorah.
Okay.
Excuse me. I'm not a public speaker, so I'm a little bit nervous about being up here. But I can't seem to find the pictures I just had. I'm not going to worry about that. The reason I'm here is the 5 inches of rain that we received about 2 years ago in 2 hours. And the water ran over the road on Laurel Drive, and that's the only thing that saved my basement from really getting flooded. I live on the east side of Locust Road. The water came from the east and the north and the west, and it all went past my house. And my sump pump did not even turn on. But the water was dammed up on Laurel, and it backed into my basement. There's 2 box culverts. I know that the county thinks that the county I think the city thinks the county is probably a lot to blame, or vice versa, or whatever, and I know it's a real problem and it's expensive to correct it correctly. But when the county did Locust Road back in 1946, I do have the blueprints of that if anyone wants to look at them, but they put in 2 box culverts that were 36 by 36, and each one of them drained 25 acres apiece. That's all the more they drained, was 25 acres. Each one of them had 2 farms on them with very little concrete work or roofing or anything else, which was a total of 50 acres. The problem is the city put in a pipe on Laurel Drive which drains 100 and 5 acres, and they put in a box culvert, or they didn't even not even put in a box culvert, they put in a pipe which is not even as big as one of the cement culverts that the county put in. And they expected to drain 105 acres with that. I called Northeast Iowa Construction Products in Cedar Falls and asked them about my dilemma and told them about the amount of houses and the amount of acreage that we were draining. And they told me that the city should, I don't know if you want to pass that around or not, but the city should have a pipe that's 78 inches. I've been in contact with Chad Bird and also with your city engineer. We've talked about this problem, and I just don't seem to be getting anywhere. I sent in a bill, I sent in an insurance claim with the city to Continental Western Group Insurance, which you have insurance with, and I'll read to you a letter that I received. The investigation has revealed no liability on the part of the city of Decorah. The storm sewer system was designed with the standard of care in effect at the time it was built, which would have been in the early 70s. The system was beyond capacity due to the 5 inches of rain which occurred during the rain event. We regret to inform you we will not be able to make any payment to you. I'd like to take that with me before I leave tonight. I just really disagree with that because, as I say, if you do the math, they put in completely underrated because the county put in a box culvert 36 by 36 for acreage, and the city of Decorah put in that smaller pipe on Laurel, and they also have to drain the streets, they have to drain the driveways, they have to drain the roof. All that is completely runoff. So it should have, you know, I don't think it's any question whether, and it's I pay $3,300 taxes, and if I was to sell my house tomorrow, I would have to disclose that my house was flooded. Do you think anyone's going to want to pay full price for my house? It's been over 6 years, and my sump pump, to my knowledge, has never kicked on in any water. I don't believe the value of my house was once what it was when I bought it because of this problem, and I think that I'd like to work with the city and try to get it fixed. I don't feel that this problem is going to be fixed by itself, and I'd sure like to work with the city and do whatever I could do to help with it. I appreciate your time, and if you would want any other questions for me to answer, I sure would. Thank you.
Council, have any questions or comments?
Is this an issue with the rest of your neighbors or just you, or?
No.
Good question. I guess you could walk through my backyard and, well, some of my, I won't mention their names, have been arguing with the city, and I wanted to talk to them about it, but they will not talk to me about it. They will not talk to you about it because they've talked enough.
You know, you said something, your sump pump never went on. I don't quite understand why you have a water problem, your sump pump don't run.
I have a walkout basement. I have a walkout basement on the east side of my house. And when I repaired or fixed the best that I could, I put a sump pump in that walkout basement. I have a sump pump on the outside of my house right now to protect me so that the water doesn't come in the door in the basement.
So in essence, you've got it somewhat under control. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I have it under control, yes. I don't think that, but I mean, I'm just doing the best I can do. I think it's going to get flooded again and again because until the city puts in a bigger pipe on Laurel Drive. Do the math. Talk to whoever you want to talk to. You can ask your city engineer to calculate it. I'd like it calculated because I've asked and they just, I don't know, I can't get an answer.
I'm trying to picture where, you know, I know you have 1502 Locust Road. I'm trying to picture where you are at.
Right across from the Blue Water Tower.
Okay, okay.
Lunch
Because
Smith's.
we ran a larger sewer line behind your house a few years ago because we had some problems. And so Lindsay, I guess I'd like to hear.
There is one, and I don't know that Bob and I talked a lot about that pipe. That pipe was focused on the Laurel Drive drainage, and it did go down through that corridor. And that would be a second pipe in addition to the one that's the culvert pipe. So there is some more capacity there than just the culvert. That pipe was focused on Laurel Drive so that it wasn't overwhelmed by other flows from the Locust Road area. If you recall, when we met and we talked about that pipe, Locust Road was something that we said was going to have to be a future decision as how we collected water and dealt with those 2 box culverts that he mentioned, because there isn't much of a ditch system, first of all, on Locust Road. If we were to do Locust Road, getting that water routed is going to be a challenge. The culvert, the pipe through Laurel that today is not the 78-inch pipe. The problem with the 78-inch pipe is for the 78-inch pipe to do what we're asking it to do, it would have to be 78 inches deep of water by the time you get that much water trying to go through that pipe. We have different problems like that. Those culverts are designed so that that road could overflow if something like this happened. In other words, the thing did what it was supposed to, but that doesn't mean if you wanted to increase the capacity of that throughway that it couldn't be done. What we've talked about with Bob is just simply that I haven't just taken the initiative to jump in and do a bunch of calculations without having this type of conversation first and deciding if it was something that we wanted to pursue some options.
Do you have another question?
Yeah, so that 78 inches that you got quoted from that firm in Cedar Falls, did they actually come to Decorah and look at the slope and the
No,
grade?
they did not.
Okay, so they just
No.
gave that to you over the phone?
Yes, he did.
Okay, so that's,
But I think he probably would come and do it if I asked him. He gets out in this area once in a while, and I'm sure he probably would if you'd want him
don't know how
to.
accurate that would be if they
Yep,
didn't actually
sure.
compare it.
Or I think it'd be more accurate even to have an engineer do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you for your discussion.
And I don't really have a problem with the city. I don't have a problem with the engineer. I know that this problem isn't going to get fixed if we don't keep talking about it or somebody doesn't keep reminding you. Or I don't understand why my neighbors, I know of 4 different neighbors that were flooded, their basements, but they they just get all their furniture out and it doesn't come back, and that's how they deal with it.
Okay.
But my biggest concern is how the city, with their insurance company, I just don't agree with the conclusion that they came to. Thank you.
Bob, here's that letter.
Anyone else who would like to address the city council in something that's not on the agenda? Go ahead and introduce yourself again, please.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. My name's James Kaufman, a citizen of Decorah, affected by and concerned about invasive noise, unnecessary invasive noise. Our homes continue to be penetrated many times per day by the noise of car audio systems and modified exhaust systems. A policy of enforcement that is solely complaint-driven is extremely unlikely to improve the situation. Regular, proactive enforcement, on the other hand, holds the greatest promise for relief from these sources of noise. The goal is deterrence, not with the impossible expectation of citing every offense, but by creating a situation in which a habitual offender, by the law of averages, is very likely to be cited within approximately a week or two. However, the current code of Decorah does not equip law enforcement with practical tools for proactive noise enforcement. Therefore, Decorah needs noise laws with a specific standard, practical for application to a problem that is largely mobile. Okay, so I have given you a copy of 3 noise ordinances that have some exemplary features. And I've emphasized the salient points here. The first is a law from Boston, Massachusetts for motorcycle exhaust systems. Now the problem is aftermarket exhaust systems. The problem is not so much people who have let their mufflers go bad, but the problem is people putting mufflers that increase the volume of sound coming from their exhaust system. So Boston, Massachusetts is one city of a few cities in the United States that I know of that has a label match law. The Environmental Protection Agency puts a stamp on the muffler saying this is the muffler that meets federal standards, EPA standards for this bike. And Boston has a law that says if you drive your motorcycle without that proper muffler, you can get a ticket, and the officer can just check to see if it's got the EPA stamp, and if not, give the ticket. Also, a helpful feature of the Boston law is that officers can even ticket a bike that's parked in a public place. So that would definitely help to take care of the motorcycle exhaust system problem that we have. Also, notice it doesn't involve the use of a decibel meter, which is cumbersome for law enforcement. The next example I have is Cleveland's law for vehicle sound systems. And wanted you to note the audibility standard here, which I've put in bold. No person shall play any radio, music player, or audio system in a motor vehicle at such a volume as to disturb the quiet, comfort, or repose of other persons, or at a volume which is plainly audible to persons other than the occupants of said vehicle. It's very, very clear, very enforceable.
2 weeks ago, I think you brought this same thing to.
Yeah, now you have it. You have it there on paper, in black and white. Finally, I've included part of Rochester, New York's noise law related to amplified sound. And the feature that I want to, actually two features I want to point your attention to with this law. And the first is that the person who allows the violation to occur is also held responsible. So if you have a gas station and you allow people to do this at your gas station, pump their base, not only the person with the vehicle, operating the vehicle, can get a ticket, but the owner of the gas station, if he or she is not taking the reasonable measures to stop it, they can be ticketed as well. That would help me a great deal, and others who live near gas stations, and other types of property. So that's helpful in a lot of ways. Another feature I just want you to note was in the audibility standard, they just used the adjective audible rather than the relatively vague, plainly audible. So you have an adjective without a confusing and fuzzy adverb that makes things more vague and less objective. So the idea is to be as objective and as specific as possible with these laws, and also practical with the situation that is actually before us, which is a mobile problem.
Council have any comments?
What are your thoughts on the races?
The races, the racetrack, I think that's a separate issue. I don't like it myself, but I think I think that's an issue for a different discussion.
I don't know how we could allow that and then force this. I think it'd be kind of hypocritical on our part.
Well,
or any outdoor music.
Right.
no, you can have permits. There was recently an event that started 8 in the morning at the brewery, where we heard this, loud music coming from the local brewery, starting at 8 in the morning, and I called the police and I asked, well, do they have a permit to be doing this? And they said, well, we don't have a record of that, but a permit, there's no reason for City of Decorah right now to have that sort of permit, because the laws are so vague anyway that a permit doesn't make sense. If we had clear and specific noise laws, we could issue permits for events that said, you have a permit for this day, you have an exemption, your restrictions are different because you have this permit. It's not sky's the limit, but you could have specific restrictions that that vary with the permit. As the Decorah's law is right now, it's so vague anyway that there's no point for a permit.
Other questions? I guess we'll move on.
Thank you.
To the agenda.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to address the City Council about anything not on the agenda? Then we'll move down to the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the October 3rd meeting, the claims, the final pay estimate and retainage of the municipal pool slide project of $9,540.65. Item D is Resolution 2966, accepting the municipal pool slide project as complete. Item E is Resolution 2969, setting a date for public hearing and establishing electric and natural gas franchise fees for November 7th at 5:45 p.m. F is partial pay number 2 for the T-hanger and taxi lane improvements in airport is $68,240.96. Finally, item G is partial pay number 2A for the T-hanger and taxi line improvement airport at $1,192.44. Any questions about the consent agenda?
Mayor, just to clarify, item E, resolution 2967, setting a date for a public hearing. Maybe I misheard you or misspoke. Did I hear 2969? I just want to clarify it's 2967.
2967.
Move acceptance of the consent agenda.
Okay, moved by Lewis. Second by Carlson. Roll call.
Luce?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Rustad?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda has been approved. We'll move to discussion and possible action on a pre-construction agreement with the Iowa DOT for Highway 9 and 52 intersection. Might comment on the discussion on this before we approve it. Chad?
I'll give a brief overview and then maybe ask if City Engineer Lindsay Erdman has anything further to add. In conversations with Lindsay and the DOT as they prepare for construction improvements on the intersection of Highway 9 and 52, it was evident that it would be prudent to consider casings only underneath the highway for possible and future expansion of water and sewer utility lines. So that, if those water and sewer lines are extended at some point in the future, the casings are already there. The entire intersection's under construction. It's the opportune time to do it. By partnering with the DOT during their construction project, we also take advantage of economies of scale, mobility, and having contractors in place already during their project. So it's a more economical way to proceed with these casings. Anytime you extend water and sewer utilities or other utilities under DOT right away, they do require the casing anyway, so it's an opportune time to put that through. It's approximately a $60,000 proposition, with approximately $40,000 of that for water and $20,000 for sewer. But I would advise the council that it really is dependent on the actual bids received from the DOT. These are just the engineer's opinion of probable cost at this time as they go to bid. By agreeing to this work and signing this agreement, the council would be bound to accept the work if the DOT accepts the project through the bidding process. So Lindsay, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
We did well. One thing I would say is in the past, we've been approached, interested in that property around the intersection, but never been able to say that we had utilities available because we're at a distance away from the intersection to begin with, and then we weren't able to get across the highways easily. This is the one chance we'll have where it's not a bored project, and it's not a simple place to bore if we did want to do it. Because of the old creek beds and whatever else is in there, as well as the existing pipe that the DOT has for storm sewers. So, while it's not an inexpensive project, if there's any ability to provide our utilities and the potential for some development in that intersection, this is a real big time to do this. It focuses on the northwest corner with sewer and water crossings on the north side of the intersection, and then we just have the water crossing on the south side, because the sewer, based on the elevations that we have east of the intersection, will be pumped anyway. As a pump line, it will be a smaller line. So, and the smaller line is much easier to bore than the larger lines. So we've simply looked at 2 large pipes with water mains to get fire hydrants in the area if we need them, and then 1 crossing of 52 to get on the west side of 52 with the sewer.
So that's what, in a sense, the old Bird property out there. But you're saying on the Windridge implement on the south side of 9, we would just put more for the water?
At the moment, we just put a water crossing in there because the sewer, if it is to serve that property based on where their sewer is and what it would take to get to that, would have to be pumped. And the pump lines we run are generally 2 to 4 inches, whereas the full-sized regular fire hydrant and the sewer lines, the regular gravity service are in the 8 to 10.
And you estimated cost at $60,000, which we could then work into our budget when we get together after the first of the year into our budget.
Right.
Our budget
This
meeting.
project is slated for 2017 construction season, which, pushes the conclusion of it, and the payment of these services into the fiscal 18 year.
Well, I believe I need to make a motion that we should enter into a pre-construction agreement with the Iowa DOT for the Highway 952 intersection for the water and sewer.
Okay, a motion by Ristad
I'll second.
and seconded by Johnson. Any other concerns? Roll call.
Restad.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Chisholm.
Aye.
Motion carried. By the way, that DOT will be having, kind of a hearing or information meeting on the 2nd of November here in this room, I think, about 5 p.m. or something. So if anybody wants to put that on their calendar. Okay, item 7 is consider a professional service agreement with Saddle Garber Engineers for the submission of an NPDES permit with the Iowa DNR for the airport. Any explanation needed there, Chad?
It's pretty simple, but it's a services agreement with Saddle Garber, who is the consulting engineer for the airport. They do the majority of the consulting services for that facility. The EPA and the DNR require NPDES, a stormwater discharge permit, due to some of the changes in fuel storage and aggregate stormwater discharge up there at the airport facility. So this agreement is for services around developing that permit, filing the permit with the DNR, and securing that, and it's for a fixed fee of $3,800. There is an additional $750 permit fee payable directly to the DNR that's separate from this agreement. But staff recommendation is that we hire Saddle for the work on development of the permit.
Okay, Council.
I'd move to hire Saddle.
Lewis made the motion. Supported
Second.
by Carlson. Any comments? Roll call.
Luce.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Chisholm.
Aye.
Restad.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider publication and notification of formal consultant selection process for engineering services per FAA regulations with regard to the airport. Again, little discussion.
So every 5 years, the FAA requires a consultant selection process, basically securing RFPs or proposals from qualified airport consultants, asking the committee or the airport commission, which tends to be de facto committee, to review those and make a recommendation for services, basically certifies them as an eligible consulting contractor, engineering services for the FAA for the next 5-year period of time. And that process is now, our current certification is expiring. So what that entails is that we publish the required notice and qualifications, and then receive bids, RFPs, letters of interest from qualifying firms. The Airport Commission will review those for qualifications and then submit a recommendation to the FAA, which then they review and authorize or certify for work on airport projects for the next 5-year period of time. So this action is just authorizing publication and notification of that notice.
Council, decision here.
So move.
Moved by Luce, supported
Second.
by Ristad. Any further comments? Roll call.
Luce.
Aye.
Restad.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Chisholm.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider Resolution 2965 approving and adopting a revenue statement for the use of revenues from electric and natural gas franchise fees. And we have both utilities, I guess, represented here tonight too, so I don't know where our discussion will go here.
We do have both Alliant Energy representing our electric utility, and Buck Hills Energy representing our natural gas utility, so thanks for coming. As the council considers moving forward with a utility franchise fee by ordinance for both the electric and the natural gas utilities, in order to do that, the first step in the process is considering a resolution that defines the revenue purpose statement. In other words, if the council does move forward with the utility franchise fee and the collection of those revenues, you need to state to the public via this resolution what you intend to do with the funds. So that resolution recommendation is in your packet. It's a little more narrow than allowed by Iowa law or the Code of Iowa, for the simple fact that as we talked about this in a committee meeting, we talked about using it for construction, specifically sidewalk items in the right-of-way. And so my recommendation to you is that you narrow this to essential corporate purposes or those items that are directly related to right-of-way maintenance, care, and operation. So those are the items that are defined in the resolution as a revenue purpose statement.
More discussion on this, or does anybody want the utility reps comment on it, or?
Maybe just a point of clarification in the process. Under the consent agenda, you just set a public hearing, which will be November 7th, on the ordinances that would basically enact this legislation to create the franchise fee. But again, this needs to state what you intend to use the revenue for.
I think a resolution focusing the use of the money makes a lot of sense. Instead of it being so wide, anything the state law allows.
So do you want to move on with this? Move on with this?
I would move the resolution 2965, developing a franchise fee.
Okay, Mr. Luce made a motion, supported by
Second.
Carlson. Now, any more discussion?
I guess I wouldn't mind hearing from your comments or thought process from the individuals here representing the local utilities, what their thoughts are, if they want to give one. There's nothing like throwing you under the bus.
You could come up to the mic if you want to comment.
My name's Craig Cleffish. I'm with Alliant Energy, and I was here probably about maybe a month or so ago when I reported on the CAPA program for our annual partnership with the city. So, I mean, I think Chad said it pretty well. I mean, obviously, the city of Decorah is looking at initiating franchise fees, and it's just an opportunity for cities to kind of help offset some of their budget cuts. So we've seen a lot of communities, a lot of cities have been doing this. So, but I really, if you have any questions, that's fine. But I mean, it's just pretty straightforward. But we're seeing a lot of communities and cities incorporating franchise fees when they're renewing their franchise. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any comments from Black Hills?
I agree with him.
Thank you. Are you ready for roll call, or?
So maybe just a little background, and of course, I can provide even more during the public hearing as we lay out the ordinances. But Craig points out that it really is diversification of revenue, so that the city's revenue is not so centrally focused and dependent on property taxes. As we all know, that's a pot that continues to have constraints placed on it. So when you look at alternative sources of revenue for even some of the same things, some of the things in this resolution are sidewalks and streets and roads and bridges. It's just a different place where those revenues can come from.
Okay.
There was talk about it could be as simple as taking 1% that's now collected as local option sales tax and putting it into the franchise fee. I would like to encourage the council to consider a possible higher fee, looking at the number of road projects that we have that we're not doing because of restraints. I realize in 5 years we'll have a lot of abated properties that will enter the tax rolls, but this would be an opportunity to take care of sidewalks and also to not take any money away from streets, but actually to add a little money. Say we went to 2% instead of just a 1%. So I just want to open that idea up to the council.
Is that something that you'd have to put in before the next step, or?
You'll need it in the ordinance for the first reading, right?
Any discussion on that? Don't hear any. I guess maybe we're ready for roll call. Roll call?
Luce?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Wested?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Motion carried. I have all of this list of these residential tax abatement applications. I will be reading them off. Rather than vote on each one separately, is there any discussion on any of them before I read them all? So maybe we can make one motion to approve all of them. Is there any questions about any of the residents' tax abatement applications? I think most of you have looked at them.
Are there any concerns that staff raised?
No.
Any other concerns? Okay, I'll proceed to read, and we can maybe do it in all one motion. We have Ruth Stortz at 807 Serenity Court, completed September of this year. We have Mike and Deb Schackerer on 809 Serenity Court, completed this September. We have Linda Langland, 607 Stapleton Drive, completed July. We have Lanny and Carolyn Seaton, 1311 Division, completed June. Carol Wilkinson at 1502 Jordan Drive, completed September. High Point East LLC, 1711 East Hill Road, completed September. Gerald and Trudy Fox, 721 Serenity Court, completed July. Jeff Ellison, 2403 Red Oak Road, completed September. Lonnie and Beverly Brown, 605 Stapleton Drive, completed July. Mark Carolyn and Rick Svensson, 407 Mound Street, Unit 2, completed August. Mark Carolyn and Joe and Dean Tolson, 407 Mound Street, Unit 1, completed in August. Jamie Folkedahl, 602 East Water, completed October. Jamie Folkedahl, 606 East Water, completed November. Jonathan and Sarah Carlson, 1107 Linden, completed May. Brendan Fermanic, 1007 Bruning Drive, completed in November. And then we have the additions, basically garages or improvements. Joel and Constant Johnson at 505 Fifth Avenue, completed October. Brandon and Nikki Breivig, 310 Day Street, completed March. Greg Bruning, 616 Crushing Heights Drive, completed August. Cameron and Andy Bonnet, 117 West Water, completed August. And Mary Murphy, 805 Clearview Drive, completed in May. So we have a motion for approval of all of these.
I'll make a motion to approve the approval and certification of 2015 residential tax payment applications.
Okay, motion by Ristad.
Second.
And supported by Shizzle. Roll call.
Wested?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Okay, I guess I forgot the pre-application here, which is David and Jean Hugo, 601 Valley View Drive for summer 2017. This is a little bit different than the others, I guess, so I don't know if you have any comments on that, Chad?
No. There is a provision in the code for pre-application review. as long as which you've done and accepted, but as long as the project meets all eligible requirements, they'll be eligible for the abatement. Of course, it's still pending the county assessor's final determination of the valuation added. So I would just draw your attention to the spreadsheet that I put in your packet regarding the numbers behind the applications that you've just approved, and note that of 15 single-family units at $5.7 million of construction value, over about $3 million construction value of last year. So the program continues to be pretty successful on the single-family side. And just over $1 million on additions and improvements, compared to about $408,000 last year. And also noting that there's still about 5 or so building permits outstanding, whereas either work's still under construction. We may still get a few of those applications in by the end of the year. And then there's several improvements or additions outstanding as well.
This pre-application, should we approve that, or is this an awareness thing?
You had it in there.
Okay.
It's an awareness.
Approve it?
Yep.
Okay. It was included in the rest of it.
Oh, was? I don't think, okay. Oh, it was. You didn't read it, that's why I wanted to
It was quiet.
quietly acquiesce to.
It will be in there. Okay. Consider board and commission appointments, Decorah Area Chamber of Commerce. And Randy has indicated he's willing to serve. He has served at least sometime in the past. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll have Randy for that. And then we've got an application from Human Rights Commission for Catherine Thompson. Could we approve both of those at the same time?
I'll make a motion to approve Randy Chisholm for Decorah Area Chamber of Commerce and Catherine Thompson for the Human Rights Commission.
I'll second it.
Motion by Ristad and seconded by Johnson. Any questions? Roll call.
Ristad?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Chisholm?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. On to reports, city manager.
Actually, I don't have anything to report today.
Okay, move on. We'll move on to department heads.
Thanks. Just wanted to share with you that recently we hosted our first Coffee with a Cop event at Java John's. That was organized by Officer Brent Parker, and it was a chance to get together with anyone that wanted to show up and talk with us about anything they had on their mind. We didn't know what to expect in terms of interest. We had a great turnout. It was a lot of fun, and we intend to move this around to different locations on a kind of recurring basis. And if you are inclined to stop by and chat with us, it was a chance for people to kind of see us in a little different context and get to know us differently. I'd like to thank Java John's for sponsoring us, hosting us for the first event. It was terrific. And then a reminder that this Saturday, the 22nd, from 10 to 2, the Northeast Iowa Drug Task Force is hosting another prescription drug drop-off event. That'll be at Walmart and Thrifty White Pharmacy on Montgomery Street. So if anyone has any kind of pharmaceuticals they want to dispose of, that's the time to do it, and we're happy to take those. Thanks.
Any other reports?
Last Friday, I sent in my last flood report to the DNR. So the year prior to the flood, we pumped 354 million gallons of water. In that 5-week period, we pumped 200 million. So we pumped about 60% of our normal flow in 5 weeks. That's just how much water was coming in, though. So, but yeah, last Friday, had to get it in, got it, they accepted it, but hope we don't have to do that anytime soon again, so.
In your information, I think there is some trail count information that was put together, so it's just a little bit of FYI. It is a little bit skewed just because this summer when those surveys were doing, I think they're done on a Friday, Saturday, and Friday was about the hottest day of the year, and Saturday I think it poured rain all day. So, but even that, even under those conditions, there's still a tremendous amount of usage. This was a survey, this was right at the end of Doug Road, so thought you might be interested in that. The park board meets this Thursday night right here, and lastly, we hosted our second Touch a Truck program on Saturday here behind City Hall, and it's hard to believe the response that is that popular. So in 3 hours, thanks to everybody willing to chip in, the street department was here, the water department was here, Brunings were here, the police were here, the fire department was set up. We had John Deere was here. We had 545 people sign in that came through and enjoyed just getting their kids on some equipment and a hot dog lunch from the fire department. So it was a lot of fun.
Somebody must not have got the hot dogs. I think there were just 500 hot dogs, wasn't there?
There was 10 left out of those 500 hot dogs. And they were big hot dogs.
Anything in the library? Okay, council members.
Just a reminder, we have a quick committee meeting after this meeting, so
Okay.
minutes after we adjourn.
Andy?
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
And over here.
Just kind of 2 weeks ago, we had a joint meeting between the Community Betterment and the Street Committee. We were talking about trucks. And for your information, you have all the council members and that have in front of them some information from the Iowa Trucking Association that I got from Olson Explosive and Trucking, so y'all can understand a little bit better what trucking industry does for the state of Iowa, for your information.
Okay. Kurt?
Nothing.
Yep. Maybe a quick comment about the housing meeting last week.
Oh, sure. Last Friday, Chad and I attended the housing meeting at NICC for that afternoon, and I found it to be very interesting. There were a lot of programs out there that I was not aware of that are available to people. But mostly it just pointed to the problem that all of our communities have in providing affordable housing in this region. So it's something that we probably need to tackle a little bit more.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to mention that I did get a letter from the Iowa Department of Cultural Affairs and the Milwaukee and St. Paul Railroad Depot has been added to the National Registry of Historic Places, and Dave Wadsworth has helped with that. He actually owns that building, so it does allow some tax credits for improvements and preservation there. So that just came this week, and the Historic Preservation Group has worked hard on that. And then I just want to remind the council members, if they want to attend on the 31st, if it fits their schedule, at 8 a.m. The total staff are going to look at our flood emergency plan with revisions and changes that need to be made, and Sean will be working with us on that too. So just wanted to see if that would fit in somebody's schedule. Any other things, or do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Okay, then